The Galactic Archives building sat in the center of the neutral zone, a massive structure made of crystal and light. Inside, thousands of species came to learn about each other. Today, a young Velthari named Kirix walked through the great halls with his mentor, the ancient historian Thavan. Kirix had never seen a human before. His home world was far from human space, and his people had only recently joined the galactic community. But he had heard stories. Everyone had heard stories about humans. "Teacher," Kirix said, his 4 eyes blinking in the bright light, "the other students talk about humans. They say humans are strange. They say humans form bonds with things that are not alive. Is this true?" Thavan stopped walking. The old Velthari was covered in gray scales and his movements were slow from age, but his mind was still sharp. "Yes, young one, it is true, but the word strange is not the right word. Different is better. Humans are different from us. And of all the things they bond with, none is stronger than their bond with ships." "Ships?" Kirix asked. "But ships are machines. They are metal and wire. How can anyone bond with metal?" Thavan smiled, showing his small teeth. "Come with me. I will show you something. The galactic records have many stories about humans and their ships. Today, you will learn why other species fear human fleets, not because of their weapons, not because of their numbers, but because humans will fight for their ships until the very end." They walked deeper into the archives. The walls were covered with screens showing information in 1,000 languages. Finally, they reached a private viewing room. Thavan touched a control panel and the lights dimmed. "This record is from the Battle of Station 7, Thavan said. "It happened 50 cycles ago. Watch carefully." The screen came to life. Kirix saw space, black and endless. In the distance, a space station hung among the stars, and around it ships were fighting. A voice spoke over the images. It was a Nexari voice, cold and logical. The Nexari were known for keeping the best records. Galactic Record 774, the Battle of Station 7. Human Vessel Designation, HSS Morning Star, Class, Heavy Cruiser. Crew, 412 human personnel. Commander, Captain Elena Vasquez. The view shifted to show a single human ship. It was not the biggest ship in the battle. It was not the most powerful, but something about it caught Kirix's attention. The ship had been damaged. Parts of its hull were torn open. Fire burned in some sections, but it kept fighting. The Morning Star had served in the human fleet for 42 standard cycles, the Nexari voice continued. During this time, over 3,000 crew members served aboard her. She had been repaired 17 times. She had been rebuilt twice. The humans called her Old Morning. They gave her a name that suggested she was alive. Kirix leaned forward. Why would they name a ship? "Watch," Thavan said. The battle on screen grew worse. Enemy ships surrounded the Morning Star. On the station behind her, thousands of people were trying to escape. The other human ships had been destroyed or disabled. Only the Morning Star remained. At 1400 hours, Captain Vasquez received orders to retreat, the record stated. The Morning Star's shields were failing. Her weapons were nearly out of power. Logic dictated immediate withdrawal to save the crew. The screen showed the inside of the ship now. Captain Vasquez stood on the bridge. She was a small woman with gray in her hair. Her uniform was torn and there was blood on her face. Around her, the crew worked at their stations. Many were injured. Some were crying, but none of them stopped working. "Captain," an officer said, "the Admiral orders us to fall back." Captain Vasquez looked at the screen showing the station. Small ships were leaving it, filled with refugees. Enemy ships were moving to attack them. "How long until those people reach safe distance?" she asked. 15 minutes, Captain." "And how long until the enemy reaches them?" 7 minutes. The captain was quiet for a long moment. Then she put her hand on the wall of the ship. It was a strange gesture, Kirix thought, like she was touching a friend. Morning Star has protected people for 42 years, Captain Vasquez said. Her voice was soft. She carried us through the Dark Space War. She brought us home when the navigation systems failed. She sheltered us when we had nowhere else to go. She turned to face her crew. I will not ask any of you to stay. Take the escape pods if you wish. No one will think less of you, but I am not leaving her, not when there are still people she can save. No one moved to the escape pods. The communications officer spoke up. Captain, the crew of the Morning Star would like to inform you that we are all experiencing equipment malfunctions in the escape pod bay. Very unfortunate. It seems we are stuck here. Captain Vasquez smiled, though tears ran down her face. Very well. Then let's show these attackers what Old Morning can do. All power to forward shields and weapons. We're not running, we're charging. The record continued. Kirix watched as the damaged cruiser flew directly at the enemy formation. It made no sense tactically. The ship was weaker. She was outnumbered, but something happened that the Nexari records had trouble explaining. Note for analysis, the Nexari voice said. Human crew performance exceeded all predicted parameters. Engine output increased to 120% of rated maximum. Weapon accuracy improved to 94%. Shield effectiveness increased by 37%. No scientific explanation for these readings. The Morning Star tore through the enemy formation. She took hit after hit. Explosions rocked her hull. Whole sections went dark, but she kept firing. She kept moving. And she put herself between the enemy and the refugee ships. For 8 minutes she held the line. At the end, the Morning Star was barely recognizable as a ship. Her once-proud hull was torn apart. Only the bridge section remained intact. But behind her, every single refugee ship had escaped. Every one. The record showed the final transmission from Captain Vasquez. She was on the floor of the bridge, badly wounded. Around her, the remaining crew lay dead or dying, but she was looking up at a screen showing the refugee ships jumping to safety. Good girl, she whispered, patting the deck. You did good, Old Morning. You kept them safe. You kept us all safe. Then the screen went dark. Thavan stopped the playback. Kirix realized he was shaking. All of them died, he asked. 47 survived, Thavan said. They were rescued from the wreckage. The rest died with their ship. But why? Why not run? Why stay and die for a machine? Thavan was quiet for a long moment. That is the question every species asks when they first learn about humans, and it is the wrong question. To humans, the Morning Star was not a machine. She was their home, their protector, their family member. They had lived in her, worked in her, loved in her. Some had been born in her. Some had died in her. She was not separate from them. She was part of them. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The Nexari have studied this phenomenon for many cycles. They have a term for it. Pack bonding, they call it. Humans form emotional attachments to anything they spend time with. Animals, places, objects, and especially ships. But it is illogical, Kirix said. Yes, it is. And that is exactly why it makes humans so dangerous. Thavan turned back to face his student. Come, there is more to see. The record of the Morning Star is only the beginning. The next record was very different. Thavan brought up images of a small transport ship. She was old and worn, her paint faded and her hull covered with repair patches. She looked like she might fall apart at any moment. This is the Free Wind, Thavan said. A civilian cargo hauler, not a warship, not a military crew, just a family trying to make a living hauling goods between systems. What happened to her? Kirix asked. Watch. The record began. The Free Wind was floating in empty space. Her engines were dark. Smoke came from her stern section. Around her, 3 sleek pirate ships circled like predators around wounded prey. Inside the Free Wind, a man named Joseph Chen sat in the pilot's seat. His wife Sarah was beside him. Their children, 2 young humans, huddled in the cargo bay with the rest of the crew. They were 7 in total. The pirates had 30. "Surrender your cargo and your ship," a voice crackled over the radio. "You have no weapons. You have no help coming. There is no reason to die for a pile of junk." Joseph Chen looked around his bridge. The free wind had been in his family for 3 generations. His grandfather had bought her new. His father had flown her through the expansion wars. Joseph had learned to walk on these deck plates. He had met his wife on this ship. His children had been born in the med bay just down the corridor. "Sarah," he said quietly, "take the kids to the engine room. Lock yourselves in." "Joseph, you can't fight them." "I'm not going to fight them." He touched the control panel gently. "I'm going to fly." Sarah understood. She had been with him long enough to know that look. She gathered the children and the crew and went below. Joseph opened the radio channel. "Pirates, I have a counter offer. Leave now and I will let you live." The pirates laughed. "Old man, your ship is dead. Your engines are damaged. You have no weapons. What could you possibly do to us?" Joseph smiled. "You made a mistake. You hurt my ship, and nobody hurts my girl without paying for it." He started working at the controls. The Free Wind's engine sputtered, coughed, and then roared to life. The pirates stopped laughing. "Impossible," one of them said. "We hit his engine core directly. There is no way he could repair it so fast." But Joseph had not repaired the engine. He had done something else. Something that only worked because he knew the free wind better than he knew himself. Every ship has quirks, hidden features that only long experience reveals. The free wind had a secret. If you pushed the wrong buttons in the right order, the safety limiters on the engine would disengage. This would destroy the engine eventually. But for a short time, for just a few minutes, the old transport would fly like nothing else in space. The free wind shot forward. The pirates scrambled to follow, but they could not match her speed. They could not predict her movements. Joseph flew like a man possessed, using every trick he had learned in 40 years of piloting this ship. He knew exactly how far she could turn before her inertial dampeners failed. He knew exactly how much stress her hull could take before cracking. He knew the one spot where her shields were weakest, and he made sure to never show it to the enemy. He flew the free wind not as a pilot flies a ship, but as a dancer moves with a partner. The pirates were confused. Their targeting computers could not keep up with the erratic movements. Their weapons hit empty space again and again. "This makes no sense," the pirate captain shouted. "That ship is 50 years old. She should not be able to move like that." But the free wind was not just a ship anymore. She was an extension of Joseph Chen. His hands on the controls were like nerves connecting brain to muscle. When he thought turn left, the ship turned left. When he felt danger above, the ship dove down. They were one being, one system, one life. For 2 hours, Joseph flew. The free wind's engine grew hotter and hotter. Warning lights covered every panel. The hull groaned with stress, but she held together. She always held together. Finally, help arrived. A patrol ship from the nearest station responded to the free wind's distress call. The pirates fled rather than face real military power. When the patrol ship docked with the free wind, they found Joseph Chen still in his pilot's seat. He was unconscious from exhaustion. His hands were bleeding from gripping the controls too hard, but he was smiling. Sarah came up from the engine room with the children. The oldest child, a girl of perhaps 10 years, walked to her father and hugged him. "Is the ship okay, Daddy?" Joseph opened his eyes. "Yes, baby, the free wind is okay. She kept us safe." The girl turned to the pilot's console and patted it gently. "Thank you, free wind. You're a good ship." The patrol ship captain, an alien from a species that did not understand human bonds, watched this scene with confusion. In his report he wrote, "Human behavior continues to defy logical analysis. Recommend further study of pack bonding phenomenon." Thavin paused the record. You see, he said to Kirix, this is not limited to military crews. It is not limited to old ships or new ships, big ships or small ships. Humans bond with any ship they spend time on, and when that ship is threatened, they will fight in ways that seem impossible. But how? Kirix asked. How did he fly like that? How did he keep the ship together when the engine should have exploded? The Nexari have theories. They believe that the human emotional state affects their physical abilities. When humans are protecting something they love, their bodies release chemicals that increase strength, speed, and endurance. They call it the bonding response. So it is just chemistry. Thavan shook his head. That is what the Nexari want to believe, but I have studied humans for many years and I think it is something more. I think humans believe in their ships, and belief, young one, is a powerful force. He brought up the next record. Now I will show you what happens when you threaten a ship that many humans love. Not just one family, not just one crew, but an entire fleet's worth of humans, all bonded to a single vessel. The image that appeared was of the most famous ship in human history. She was huge, over 2 kilometers long. Her hull was white and gold, and she carried the flag of the Human Alliance on her side. Her name was written in letters 10 meters tall, HSS Unity. The Unity was the first ship built after the human civil war, Thavan explained. She represented the joining of all human factions into one alliance. Every human alive today has some connection to her. Many made pilgrimages to see her. Some served aboard her. Others simply grew up seeing her image, knowing what she stood for. What happened to her? Kirix asked. He could tell from his teacher's tone that this story would not have a happy beginning. The Krath happened. Kirix felt his scales tighten. The Krath were a species known for their cruelty. They conquered worlds not for resources or territory, but for the pleasure of destruction. They had been at war with the galactic community for centuries. The record began. The Unity was on a diplomatic mission when the Krath fleet found her. She was alone, far from any support. The Krath saw her and could not resist. To destroy the symbol of human unity would be a great victory. 20 Krath warships surrounded the Unity. They opened fire. The Unity was not a warship. She was built for diplomacy and exploration. Her weapons were minimal. Her shields were designed for defense, not combat. She had no chance against 20 dedicated warships. In the first minute, her shields failed. In the second minute, her engines were destroyed. In the third minute, half her crew was dead. But she kept broadcasting. Her communications officer, a young man named David Park, sent her distress call across every frequency, in every language. This is HSS Unity. We are under attack. Position follows. Any vessel, please respond. Across human space, the call was heard, and something happened that the Krath had not expected, something that military analysts still study today. On a mining station 3 systems away, a freighter captain named Rodriguez heard the call. She looked at her crew, and without a word they all moved to their stations. Set course for the Unity's position. Maximum speed. Captain, her first officer said, we're a mining ship. We have no weapons. We have a hull, Rodriguez replied. That's enough. On a pleasure yacht in the next sector, a retired admiral named Zhang heard the call. He turned to his family who were celebrating his birthday. I'm sorry, I have to go. His grandson, a boy of 14, stood up. I'm coming with you. It's too dangerous. Grandpa, it's the Unity. We all go or nobody goes. The entire family boarded the yacht's shuttle and headed for the nearest military base to volunteer. On a research vessel studying a nebula, a team of scientists heard the call. They had no military training. Their ship had no weapons, but they turned around anyway. We can't fight, one of them said. No, the lead scientist replied. But we can be witnesses. We can record what happens, and if we die, at least we die trying. Across human space, ships changed course. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. Military vessels dropped whatever they were doing and raced to the Unity's position. Civilian ships followed. Old ships, new ships, big ships, small ships, they all came. The Krath commander watched his sensors with growing unease. "Report, what is happening?" "Commander, human vessels are converging on our position. Count is increasing. Current estimate, 400 vessels and rising." 400 from where? We are in neutral space. "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be coming from everywhere." The first human ships to arrive were fast attack craft. They were small, lightly armed. Against 20 Krath warships, they should have been destroyed in seconds. But they did not fight like normal ships. They flew directly at the Krath formation, putting themselves between the enemy and the crippled Unity. They took hit after hit but refused to fall back. When one was destroyed, another took its place. "Why do they not retreat?" the Krath commander demanded. "Their ships are dying, their efforts are meaningless." His tactical officer had no answer. More human ships arrived. A heavy cruiser dropped out of hyperspace and immediately opened fire. Then another. Then 3 destroyers. Then a carrier with 50 fighter craft. They kept coming, an endless stream of ships, all racing to save the Unity. The battle turned. The Krath found themselves outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that would not stop. Humans who should have retreated charged forward. Humans who should have protected themselves threw their ships in harm's way. Humans who had no logical reason to be there fought as if their own lives depended on it. Because to them it did. The Unity was not just a ship, she was a symbol, she was an idea. She was the physical form of everything humans believed about themselves. To let her die was to let a part of themselves die. And humans, Thavan had learned, would do anything to protect their own. The Krath fleet was destroyed, all 20 ships, not one escaped. The Unity survived, barely. Her hull was torn open in a dozen places. 90% of her crew was dead or wounded, but she survived. And when the rescue ships finally arrived, they found human vessels forming a protective sphere around her. Military ships and civilian ships, all standing guard. No one had ordered them to stay. No one had assigned them to protect the damaged vessel. They simply refused to leave until she was safe. The record showed the Unity being towed to a repair station. Humans lined the observation decks of every station and ship she passed, watching in silence. Some were crying. Some were saluting. All were grateful. A reporter asked one of the surviving crew members why so many ships had come. The crew member, a woman with burns on her face and a broken arm in a sling, looked at the reporter as if the question made no sense. "She's the Unity," the woman said. "She's our ship, we had to come." Thavan paused the record again. Kirix was silent for a long time. "This is why humans are feared," the young Velthari finally said. "Yes," Thavan agreed. "Not because they are strong. Other species are stronger, not because they are fast. Other species are faster, not because they have better weapons. They do not. Humans are feared because they will not abandon their ships, ever. But surely this can be used against them. If you threaten their ships, they become reckless. They take risks. They make mistakes." Thavan smiled sadly. "Many have tried that strategy. The Krath tried it. You saw how that ended. Others have tried as well. Let me show you one more record. This one is difficult to watch, but it is necessary." He brought up the final record. The image showed a single human destroyer. She was small, not much bigger than a large transport. Her name was HSS Defiance. She was surrounded by a fleet of Morathi ships. The Morathi were a species known for their psychological warfare. They did not simply fight enemies. They broke them first, then destroyed them. They had studied human-pack bonding and believed they had found its weakness. "Human vessel Defiance," the Morathi commander broadcast. "We have your ship surrounded. We have destroyed your engines. We have disabled your weapons. You cannot fight. You cannot flee. Your only option is surrender." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Sarah Okonkwo listened to the message. Her ship was damaged, that was true, but she was far from helpless. Humans were never helpless as long as they had something to fight for. "What are your terms?" she asked. "Abandon your ship, take your escape pods, leave the Defiance to us. We will allow you to live. And if we refuse, then we will destroy you. But first, we will make you watch as we tear your ship apart piece by piece. We know how much you humans love your vessels. We will hurt her, we will break her, and you will feel every moment of it." Captain Okonkwo turned off the communication. She looked at her crew. They were young, most of them. This was the Defiance's first mission with this crew. They had only been together for 3 months. "You heard them," she said. "They're giving us a choice. We can leave and live, or we can stay and probably die." Her first officer, a man named Chen, spoke up. "Captain, what do you want to do?" "What I want doesn't matter. This is your decision too, all of yours." The crew was quiet. Then one by one they spoke. "I'm staying," the helm officer said. "The Defiance got me through the academy, pulled extra duty to get assigned here. I'm not leaving her to those monsters." "Staying," the weapons officer said. "My father served on this ship, died on this ship. I'll be damned if I let anyone take her." "Staying," the engineer said. "Been keeping her running for 15 years. She needs me. I'm not going anywhere." One by one, every crew member chose to stay. Not one person moved toward the escape pods. Captain Okonkwo nodded. "Then we fight, not because we can win, but because the Defiance deserves better than to be taken apart by enemies." She opened the communication channel. "Morathi Commander, we reject your terms. The Defiance is our ship. You want her, come and take her." The Morathi commander was confused. "This is illogical. You cannot win. You will die for nothing." "No," Captain Okonkwo said. "We will die for something. We will die for her, and that is everything." The battle began. The Morathi did not simply attack. True to their word, they tried to torture the Defiance. They targeted non-critical systems. They cut away pieces of her hull without destroying vital areas. They wanted the crew to suffer. They wanted them to feel their ship dying. But they had miscalculated. They had studied human pack bonding but had not truly understood it. Every hit the Defiance took did not weaken her crew. It made them angrier. Every wound to the ship was a wound to them, and humans, when wounded, do not give up. They fight harder. The engineer performed miracles. Systems that should have stayed dead came back to life. Power was rerouted through pathways that should not have existed. The Defiance's shields flickered on when they should have been permanently disabled. The weapons officer found reserves of ammunition that had been forgotten in storage. Guns that had been reported as destroyed suddenly fired again. The helm officer flew the crippled ship in ways that defied physics. The Defiance danced between enemy fire, spinning and rolling on axes that no functioning ship should have been able to use. For 6 hours the Defiance fought. For 6 hours, a crippled destroyer held off an entire fleet. And then help arrived. A human carrier group dropped out of hyperspace, responding to the Defiance's distress call. The Morathi, shocked and depleted from the battle, fled rather than face fresh enemies. When the rescue teams boarded the Defiance, they found her crew still at their stations. Many were wounded, several were dead at their posts, but those who lived were still fighting, still protecting their ship. The rescue team leader, a veteran of many battles, looked around the destroyed bridge and shook her head. "How?" she asked. "How did you hold out so long?" Captain Okonkwo, bleeding from a wound in her side, leaned against her command chair. "We couldn't let them have her," she said simply. "She's our ship, our home, our family. You don't abandon family." The rescue leader had no response to that. The Defiance was towed back to port. She was so badly damaged that most engineers recommended scrapping her, but her crew refused to allow it. They spent their own money, used their own time, and called in every favor they had to get her rebuilt. Today, the Defiance still flies. She is the oldest active destroyer in the human fleet. Her hull is more patched than original metal. Her systems have been replaced so many times that no original part remains. But she is still the Defiance. She is still their ship. And her crew, those who survived, still serve aboard her. They refused transfers. They refused promotions that would take them away. They stayed with their ship. Because that is what humans do. Thavan ended the final record. The viewing room was quiet. Kirik sat in silence, processing everything he had seen. The captain dying on the bridge of the Morning Star. The father flying the free wind through impossible maneuvers. The hundreds of ships racing to save the Unity. The crew of the Defiance choosing death over abandonment. I understand now, Kirik said finally. But I am not sure I understand why. Why do humans form these bonds? What causes it? Thavan walked to the window again. Outside, ships of 100 different species flew past. None of them would have crews who would die for them. None of them would inspire such loyalty and love. The humans have a saying, Thavan said. Home is where the heart is. For many species, home is a planet, a city, a building, but humans are wanderers. They have always been wanderers. They spread across their world, then across their system, then across the galaxy. They cannot put down roots in one place because they are always moving to the next. He turned to face his student. So they put their roots in their ships. The ship becomes their home. The ship becomes their family. The ship becomes everything they need to feel safe and loved in a universe that is very big and very cold. But it is still just metal and wire, Kirik said. Is it? Thavan asked. Or is it the sum of every moment lived within it, every meal shared in the mess hall, every laugh heard in the corridors, every tear cried in the quarters, every life saved and every life lost? The metal and wire hold all of these things. The metal and wire remember, even if they cannot speak. Kirik's thought about this. When you put it that way, it almost makes sense. It makes perfect sense. We simply are not used to thinking this way. Our species bonds with our planets, with our nests, with our spawning grounds. We feel the same way about our homes that humans feel about their ships. The difference is that human homes can fly, and that makes them very dangerous to anyone who threatens those homes. A soft chime indicated that their time in the viewing room was ending. Other visitors needed the space. As they walked back through the great halls of the archive, Kirik saw a group of humans passing by. They were crew members from a ship docked at the station. Their uniforms bore the name of their vessel, the HSS Wanderer. One of the humans, a young woman, was talking to her companions. I can't wait to get back, she was saying. I know we've only been gone for a day, but I miss her already. Something about the way the Wanderer hums when you're in the engine room. It's like she's singing to you. Her companion laughed. You've only been aboard for 6 months. Wait until you've been there for years. You'll start talking to her like she can answer back. I already do, the young woman admitted. Is that weird? It's human, another crew member said. Completely normal. The group passed by, still talking about their ship. Kirix watched them go. They are so casual about it, he observed. Because to them, it is natural, Thavan said. They do not think of it as strange or unusual. They love their ships the same way they love their friends or their family. It is simply part of who they are. They reached the exit of the archive. Outside, the station was bustling with activity. Ships came and went. Species of all kinds walked the corridors. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. What should I take from today's lesson? Kirix asked. Thavan considered the question carefully. 3 things. First, never threaten a human ship unless you are prepared for the consequences. Second, if you ever need allies in a desperate situation, find humans. They will fight for you like they fight for their own. And third. He paused, looking up at the stars visible through the station's windows. Third, perhaps we can learn from humans. Perhaps we can learn to love as deeply and as fiercely as they do. Perhaps we can learn to protect what we care about with the same passion. Humans are not stronger than us or smarter than us, but they love harder than us. And in this universe, that might be the most powerful force of all. Kirix nodded slowly. He understood now. The records he had seen were not just history. They were lessons. Lessons about the power of love. Lessons about the strength that comes from caring deeply. Lessons about what beings can accomplish when they have something worth fighting for. As he left the archive that day, Kirix looked at the ships in the docking bay with new eyes. They were still metal and wire. They were still machines built for specific purposes. But now he could see what the humans saw. He could see the potential for connection, for love, for home. He wondered what it would be like to love something that much, to be willing to die for it, to fight impossible battles rather than abandon it. He did not know if he would ever understand it fully, but he knew he would never forget what he had learned. Humans pack bond with ships, and when you threaten what they love, they will fight for it always. That was the lesson of the galactic records. And it was a lesson that no one in the galaxy would ever forget.